At this time, I would like to call the July 24, 2024 meeting of the Board of Education to order. We will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. I'll accept a motion to approve the July 24th, 2024 agenda presented before us this evening. May I have a motion? So moved. Thank you, VP. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Discussion, additions, or any corrections?
Not necessarily a discussion, just a comment.
Okay.
I find it interesting that we're bringing the vaping policy to the full board before we take it to the policy committee, because the practice we have had up to date is policy committee discusses it first, then we come back to the full board. I can appreciate that, having that feedback ahead of time, but it is just a little odd for me, given the practice that we've been under for this time.
Yeah, so a few months ago in my board updates, I shared that and when I shared the topics as well, I had mentioned in there that we were gonna try with some of the policies that are kind of hot topics for the community to have the conversation at the board meeting, so then it would be taken to the board, to the policy committee. So it was in the updates for several months
Yeah.
about this process. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more because the vaping, the cell phone, and the security screening system, those are hot topics, and those are things that I'm thinking that we would like to have to discuss and share before September, because my understanding is that the policy committee is not gonna meet again until September. Okay.
Board President, are we looking to potentially implement this policy before the next school year?
Well, we're looking at it to discuss it today, to provide, and the thing is, the discussion could be that we want it to go directly to the policy committee based on some of the things that we saw prior to coming to the meeting today. So we're hoping, but my understanding is that you won't have a meeting again until
Right.
September. So if that's the case, then probably not until September.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? And thank you, Board Member Jamaica, and thank you, Board Member Vivian. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept the July 24th, 2024 meeting agenda carries. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes. The minutes for the BOE meeting on July 10th, 2024 are presented for approval. May I have a motion to accept these minutes? Motion? So, thank you, VP. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Any additions, corrections, discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept the July 10th, 2024 board meeting minutes carries. We will now welcome public comments. There are no public comments, so I am going to transition it to Deputy Superintendent DiCaprio. Superintendent Cotto is at a conference, the Big Picture Conference, so we are joined and welcome with our Deputy Superintendent DiCaprio.
Thank you, Board President Rivera.
You're welcome.
Board of Education. Those in the audience, welcome. Comments will be brief tonight. Shout out to Dr. Cotto, we miss you. Hope you're enjoying the conference. Just some brief updates. One, I want to recognize our student representatives. We had an incredible event this weekend at the New York State Board of Education Association's two-day forum around leadership and education. And if you've never been, it was at the Desmond, which is local. It's very adult-centric. You've got vendors, you've got presenters, lots of kind of adult-centered learning, and you don't see a lot of student activity in these settings. And you sure did if you came Saturday. And props to Joyce and our student reps who partnered with Niskayuna Central School District's Board of Education student representatives and offered a forum to adults in the room, professional educators, veteran, a new, but pretty intimidating space. You couldn't tell by watching them. They represented our district with incredible pride, skill, and grace, and they did so in a partnership with Niskayuna schools that felt truly connected, organic, and on the same page around why student voice matters. And they shown our district was on a platform that was recognized, I think valued, and I think there was a little jealousy in the room. I would say it. You know, looking at what I think a lot of districts, where they want to go, I got a chance to see what that looks like. And Joyce, very proud, and thank you and all those that were involved to make it happen. So I want to make sure I recognize them. The SCSD bookmobile is alive and well. The rumor's true. It's back out, it's on the road, look for it around town. Today it made an appearance at the Guyanese Community Center. There was a summer block party today. Becky Gleason, thank you, she's our director of ELA. That's a Herculean task to keep that thing up and running, literally. But it's filled with just lots of love around literacy, all things books, and really gets books, especially over the summer months, in the hands of families and our kids. So big thanks there. Our farm to family, speaking of mobile vehicles, our farm to family produce van, chiller truck, I'm not always sure how to describe it. That's loaded with lots of produce. That's been making its rounds around the city. So big thanks to Elaine Reynolds, Rebecca Henriksen, our facilities folks, to keep that up and running. And again, getting spaces where accessibility to families to help us through each day, feeling that they have access to what they need is there, and we're able to provide that. So keep on the lookout for that. Just a couple updates on what's to come. August 2nd, our Schenectady School District Summer Theater Camp will put on a performance of Swamped. That'll be 7 p.m. in the Black Box Theater. Probably an incredible show. Hopefully you can make it there. One more quick reminder, fall sports. I know it seems far away, but it will come faster than you think. So we have registration opportunities out. You can check our website, social media links. The sooner you register, the better. And we're looking to get our numbers up for all of our fall sports and beyond. So big thanks to those who have. Please be on the lookout for continuing information there. And then lastly, city happenings last weekend. I saw so many of our families and students at the Schenectady City's Tater Trot. I did say it right for a while. I was calling it Tater Tot. That's just what they had. The Tater Trot was incredible. It was a sampling of the varied local businesses producing potato-themed dishes. I did sample them all for quality assurance purposes, and so I can appropriately judge, but it was really wonderful to see our families and our kids engaged with our local businesses in our community. And that concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent DiCaprio. Okay, we will continue with board comments. I would just like to remind the board that you have a chance to share comments about the district and community events, school liaison updates, and/or agenda items. We will begin our board comments with Student Board Representative Joyce.
Hello and good evening, fellow board members and Deputy Superintendent. As a student representative, I would like to speak on the NYSBBA panel, which I had the pleasure of being part of, the Amplifying Student Voice panel at the Leadership in Education event, along with Dr. Cotto, our board president, Bernice Rivera, and Superintendent Carl Momente of the Naciona Central School District, including board member Kimberly Turley and Chief of Equity Officer Lutasha J. Burnett. The panel was an amazing student-led discussion from both schools, allowing students and board members to talk about the importance of allowing students to have a space for their voices to be heard, especially student representation on district school boards. I really enjoyed, I lost my space. Student representative and student leaders from Naciona and Schenectady School District as a part of the panel, informing many different school board members of the many different ways having student representation can impact district policies, issues, and more. I was able to talk about the impact having student representative has had on our very own school district, including helping elevate student voice, impacting issues such as ENL, and possibly impacting different policies as we continue to work with board members and our board president. Thank you. Thank you to all who helped set up the event for allowing us to shine light on student voice and for amplifying student voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Student Board Representative Joyce. Thank you so much. And we will continue with Vivian, then Jamaica, and Kathy.
No comment.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. Board Member Jamaica?
Hey, go. Hey, go. I was watching the timer. So, I did get to attend the New York State School Board Association event, which was 2 days. This is what the flyer looked like. This is filled with all kinds of stuff. It is not possible for me to tell you all the things that we learned. A number of us were there. I do have extensive notes, and also I have some thoughts about how we can potentially train the trainer when we do workshops and conferences. Because not everyone gets to go to the workshops and conferences, and sometimes it's not enough to just be like, okay, so here are my notes. So at some other time, I'll talk to you, Bernice and Noe, about ideas I have about how we can have that shared knowledge, because it was a lot of information. I had already told Joe, hey, next policy committee, come in. There's a lot of information that actually applies to stuff we're talking about right now. It was very fact-based and, data-driven. So I'm sure that Kathy will have some more to say about that. I do want to add that we are ending Mental Health Awareness Month. And while we haven't mentioned it, it is something that's really important to our district. It's important to our families. And just wanted to lift that up, because while we celebrate some month at some time, we do also recognize when we're lifting up for the moment, and it still continues on. So I do look forward to how we look for those opportunities to support families around mental health.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica, then Board Member Kathy, Board Member Alexandria, and then Board Member Nohalani.
As was mentioned, I also attended the New York State School Board Association Leadership in Education event is what that stands for, and that was taking place last Friday and Saturday. I commend the participants in the student voice session, and as Jamaica has indicated, there were many sessions that were well worth the time to be there. I heard very positive comments about the student voice session afterwards from people who didn't know that I was a part of the Schenectady City School District. So that was nice to hear. And I thank you all for having put that together. I did also attend earlier in the week, and you probably wonder why, the Rural School Boards Association meeting in Lake Placid. And that also is quite informative in terms of sessions. There were different things. We talked about teacher shortage, we talked about mental health, a number of things, and to Jamaica's point as well, there just isn't enough time to mention all of those, so I have the information about that as well. The other thing, I attended a law conference on Thursday for NYSBA, and I did 6 days of sitting last week, so I feel every bit of it. But the law conference gave us input to many of the things, as Jamaica said, with regard to policy and some timelines and certain things. The last thing I want to mention is that today I did, and I do this quarterly, I represent New York State School Board Association on what's called the COPS Committee. It's a committee of practitioners, and it has to do with having a number of voices for, particularly from school districts and all stakeholders with regard to ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, has to do with our Title I and so on. One of the big points that was made today is that they're coming up with another accountability system that it's in flux. This whole thing is in flux again. And what's going to be very important for the community to understand is that it takes a lot of parental input. And there's supposed to be parental input for every title, Title I, Title II, Title IV. And I asked the question about how we determine the percentage of parents we need to hear from. And they didn't have an answer, but larger districts should have more than smaller districts. That was kind of the response. But we really do need that parental input in order to qualify for those title monies. And so that was a point I really wanted to make out of today's conference. I guess that is it. I have other things.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy.
No comment.
Thank you, Board Member Alexandra. No public comment. And actually, a lot of my comments were already shared, but I do want to again give kudos to Joyce and all the students that were involved. They were amazing, fantastic, and they gave a lot of insight to board members all across the state and even superintendents. And we were loaded with a lot of questions afterwards. Board member Tully from Niskayuna and myself, and people were really, really impressed by the students, both Niskayuna and Schenectady students. And I also want to shout out Dr. Kedley, because she was also there. As DiCaprio mentioned, he was there, Dr. Kodo. So I just want to also uplift the team that was there and supporting us when we were at the session. And of course, Jamaica and Kathy were also there, because they were able to attend. But it was a great session, so thank you. Thank you. Okay, so today, as we prepare to discuss and vote on a curriculum for the teaching and learning program, it is crucial to hear from the leader who has led the ENL program. Please join me in welcoming our Teaching and Learning Assistant Director of English as a New Language, Multilingual Education and World Languages, Leah. Leah and her team have been instrumental in shaping our approach to language education, ensuring that every student has the tools they need to thrive. Today, our TIA, the Teaching and Learning Assistant Director of English as a New Language, Multilingual Education and World Language, Leah, will walk us through the proposed curriculum and the impact on our students' learning journey. So we welcome you. Hello.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Education, Deputy Superintendent Joe DiCaprio. Again, my name is Leah Akinlaya. I'm the Assistant Director for ENL, World Language, CRE, I need to say all of them. English as a New Language and Culturally Responsive Education. So tonight I'm going to be talking about two things. Do you want me to do the language first? Okay. So I'm honored to address to you tonight as a representative our dedicated World Language Department. Our team of 20 teachers proudly serves over 3,500 students offering a diverse range of languages. We offer French, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and soon American Sign Language. Yes, finally, 2.5 years. This year, we successfully implemented the New York State Seal of Biliteracy program. So just for those of you that aren't aware, the Office of Bilingual Education and World Language recognizes high school seniors who have attained a high level of proficiency in English and one or more languages. So this year, we had the honor of having 5 out of 6 students pass a very rigorous course, and then a presentation in front of the board. So it was a great experience. We had 1 Arabic and 4 Spanish speakers, so it was a great opportunity for them. And this is our first year, and we're going into our second year. And it's something that other school districts have, so we were like, well, why don't we have it? Let's bring it to Schenectady. So we're really excited about that. And it's our testament to our commitment to linguistic excellence. So for 2 decades, our curriculum has maintained largely unchanged in world language. It's time for a transformation. We're eager to adopt a modern, culturally responsive, and linguistically relevant curriculum. Imagine a program that leverages digital platforms, supplemental in-class textbooks offering rigorous leveled instruction, authentic resources, and rich exploration of global culture. And the one neat thing about this program is that students will be able to use a lot of communication with other students in other countries and be able to talk to each other, which is really cool. The Office of Teaching and Learning, OTL, envisions ongoing support, professional development, and more authentic assessments along with this new curriculum. If approved, this vision we wish to bring to life. Our department evaluated 3 potential programs aligning with the 5 C's of the American Council on Teaching of Foreign Languages, called ACTFL. It's a world readiness standards: communication, connections, cultural comparisons, and community. We assess language systems, community strategies, learning approaches, cultural knowledge and critical thinking, interdisciplinary content, and technology integration. Our 7 through 12 teachers and administrators rated 3 programs: Sabas, Wayside, and Vista Higher Learning for Spanish, French, and Chinese. The results were clear. Vista Higher Learning emerged as the top choice in both components. Vista Higher Learning additionally has the 3 programs to help streamline curriculum with consistent messaging in all 3 languages, which are Spanish, French, and Chinese. With your approval, we'll embark on summer curriculum development, professional development for seamless implementation, and roll out a program in September 2024. We're excited about the opportunity to have the PowerPoint here. I just want to highlight a couple things before I begin questions. So on slide 3, where it says timeline, we'll go back, sorry, right there. So we actually started our process November 2022, where teachers were kind of just looking at different resources, but we really officially started October 12th, 2023, where we worked together, we developed a statement of kind of like our why, our purpose. In our department, we're really trying to focus on bilingualism, and it really goes with kind of the overall kind of what I do, which is really supporting our native speakers, our ELs, and this program elevates that even more for all students. Additionally, we have identified the programs. We had some time to look at various programs and settled on the 3, our top 3. Savas only had Spanish, Wayside had all 3, and then we had Vista High Learning. So some of our non-negotiables, our next slide, that teachers really wanted to focus on were they going to get ongoing support. Communication is really important when it comes to world language. So were they going to have a chance to have those authentic resources, videos, time to talk to other students, something they can do at home, and also really having those ongoing self-assessments too. Because a lot of times in world language, a lot of kids, they're scared to speak. I took German from my sophomore year of high school, no, 6th grade to my sophomore year of college, and I could not hardly speak anything because I didn't practice, right? So we really were looking for something where students are able to practice in their own comfort of their own home, but also in school as well, and really get to practice. So that's what was really huge. Also strong culturally and linguistically relevant education. Another slide I wanted to highlight was the rubric. So again, we had our teachers, they were able to actually, go through the rubric and really look and rate over several months, really. They really had time on their own as well in our committee to look at the different programs, try it out. So it was a lot of time, but it was well worth it. And last thing I wanted to highlight are other school districts. So New York State has Vista and South Colony Central Schools, also Albany City School District, and many others in the region. So these are all listed in New York State, but those are the 2 that are larger, like Utah. So just for you to be aware of other school districts that are using Vista Higher Learning. So as we move forward, we are excited to provide our teachers with this opportunity. I want to thank Dr. Chisholm, although she's not here tonight. She was a huge Wood, Jennifer Newton, who have assisted their team leaders, and my world language teachers that are dedicated to this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions when it comes to language.
We'll start with board member Vivian.
Yes.
Hi. So
question for you. If a student wished to continue their language education in college, how does this new curriculum prepare them to basically pick up where they left off? With the college curriculum and their rigor in comparison to the rigor of this curriculum.
So the great thing about this style of learning is it does, there is an aspect of it that deals with our, supports our IB program, which they do get college credit for. But also, again, when it comes to speaking, which is the hardest part for our students to really focus on, it really supports them at home and at school. So there's, I guess, the transition when it comes to the ability to practice more and feel more comfortable doing the program. We also have a study abroad program that actually Mr. Preston takes our students to, which is another great way. So we have a lot of factors within our district to help support language, so they will be encouraged to do it. And additionally, the New York State Seal of Biliteracy program, so that's a seal on their certificate where it shows that they are bilingual, and that's the goal, that they can read, they can write, and they can speak in that native language.
Amazing. So even if it was a student who wasn't in the IB program, they would still be able to go to college and pick up where they left off.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And for the great thing about the New York State Seal of Biliteracy is they don't have to be IB. We have, this year we had one of our L's, he's Arabic student, he was able to get the seal. He spoke in Arabic and then in English, and so that was an amazing opportunity because a lot of times it is just focused on the IB program, but we want to expand to everybody. We want the kids to know that their language is important and that we value their language, we value their culture, and that, you know, eventually I would love to have a heritage speaker class because a lot of times our students lose the language because they're trying to learn English, but we want to also have that support at home, but also at school.
Final question.
Yep.
Are we looking into exposing students to different career paths? So if they are certified bilingual, they can even work for the UN, work for the government, do anything. Are we exposing them to that?
That's a great question. I mean, I would love for them to be world language teachers because there is a shortage. And then also, hopefully in the future, we'll have a dual language program. So it would be great for us to have an internship where students are working within our district to get that experience. But yes, that's something definitely showing them the benefits. So with the great thing about the Seal of Biliteracy is that we're going to have our students that last year got the seal come back and tell all their friends about it. And so we'll get momentum over the years so they can really see the benefit of being bilingual. I'm really jealous. I really wish it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board member Vivian, Vice President Mahan.
So I think this is fantastic. I do have a question for the home component. So I get in school the support that exists for them. How does that work at home? Is that going to be kind of an asynchronous process where they're just kind of graded along as they're taking it? Is that the
So
expectation?
it's a digital platform, so students would be able to sign in through ClassLink. And from there, the teacher can actually assign them through their Google Classroom, or if they just need additional practice. There is like an on-off button, so they can't just call random kids in other country, but the teacher would have to set it up with the teacher in the other country. They have practice. They can hear their voice, so we would get headphones, so they would be able to hear themselves say something and then repeat it. And that's really important too, like the dialect and how they're saying it. So it's something that they can use at home as a resource.
Board member Kathy?
B. Gates.
Ah, yeah.
I was a joke.
Okay.
The program indicates that they can begin in 7th grade. What does it look like in 7th grade? Are they, I'm going back to my days, I kind of did it as a half course for 7th and 8th grade, and then took courses for, like an entire period, the 9th through 12th.
So our kids, luckily, we've been able to sustain the program for 7th grade because again, there's a huge shortage for world language teachers. So they start in 7th grade, they have Spanish, and we're expanding the French program. So they have Spanish and French in 7th grade almost every day. When there is a slight shortage and we're unable to find a teacher, it is every other day. But we've been very fortunate that we've had enough world language teachers.
I could do come and tell you too. I love this seal of biliteracy, and it's one of the things that was even mentioned today in terms of what the state is going to is one diploma, but individual districts can apply for it, including the seal of biliteracy or the seal of civic readiness as part of the credentials that a graduate would have. And so I think that's very important. So do we have a goal in terms of the number of students we might attract to these programs in the world language? I mean, Spanish or French or Chinese?
So, yeah.
Or Arabic?
Yeah, so Spanish is obviously our top language. We are seeing an increase in French, so that's why we're looking to expand the French program. Also, our distance to Canada is very close, so a lot of our French teachers are like, oh, we can do a trip, or really using that to our advantage to expand the French program. Arabic is small; it's a smaller program, but Arabic's actually our second language. So, that's something that we are putting the time in now to invest in Arabic. We hired a full-time Arabic teacher, and so really supporting our native Arabic speakers. And then Chinese is new. We used to have.
Is that Mandarin?
Mandarin, yes. We used to have it, and then we just brought it back last year. And then Russian, we have a teacher who speaks, he's fluent Russian. He was actually the only certified Russian teacher and became an ENL teacher when they cut the program in his other district. And he's just like, hey, I really want to teach this class. And we got some kids that are interested, so we're really going by student choice. And then the staff as well that can, teach those classes. And then American Sign Language, also students were very interested. It took a very long time to find somebody, but we're excited to bring that.
Just a personal note, my niece studied American Sign Language for many years. She's actually an interpreter and does it professionally at this point. And she exempted on foreign language by American Sign Language. So that was a
very
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Board Member Jamaica.
Thank you so much. As you noted, way overdue for a revamp. As a parent of someone who's taking French, and never thought that I would say that, there are so many different cultural pieces, as you mentioned. Special shout out to Mr. Boge, because I do think it is because of him. I mean, Malia chose French, but it is because of him that she's excelled in it. He's now over at the high school, so she's got to wait to go see him. But it already feels like a different program. I remember being in this district and taking language, and I had no interest in it at all. I did take French. I regretted it. I am enjoying her learning it. And as I'm doing adult learning in Spanish, at home, we try to talk to each other in different languages. There being an at-home piece for children to be able to practice at home, because it makes such a difference. Don't no one try to talk to me in Spanish, please. I'm not. Listen, I said Feliz Cumpleaños to someone today, and it was a whole thing, and I was able to write it. So, but it makes a huge difference. But I can't enough talk about the cultural piece and what it means to our families, who their home language, some folks are trying to learn. And I appreciate that someone was able to use their native language to get a seal, because they still speak two languages. And I find too often there's this emphasis about folks who English is their first language, learned a second language, and how that moves them forward, and not enough on the individuals who very often don't just speak two languages, that English is one of several languages that they speak, and us being able to foster that type of community is amazing, and is going to show great success for a larger number of our students. So just thank you for your leadership on this work, and the whole team for making sure that this happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member
And
Jamaica.
ASL is the bomb. Pass it around.
Any other questions from board members?
Yeah.
Board Member Vivi?
Anything for ASL certification? American Sign Language?
Right.
Is there a certification, is there
Yes.
anything for that?
There is certification
Okay.
for ASL, yes.
So is that something that our students would be able to work towards?
Oh, to
With
be
this
like an
curriculum, yes.
interpreter, I mean, eventually they would have to get to a certain level.
Sure.
Schenectady Community College actually has, ASL as well, so it's something that we can definitely in the future look into. Right now, we're just gonna start with ASL one, for right now.
Okay, yeah.
Board Member Kathy?
I did have one last question. What is Savas adding that Vista doesn't have? It only does Spanish, I think you said.
Yes.
So, Does Vista, but Vista has Spanish as well.
So we're gonna go with Vista, Vista has
Oh, okay,
Spanish.
so we're not doing the two, Savas and Vista, we're doing just Vista.
We're just doing Vista,
Okay.
so we had to vet, obviously, 3 programs.
I see.
And Savas just had Spanish. Savas is actually the program that we currently were using, that was older, but they wanted something new, they liked the features of the digital platform, and they really loved that it had multiple language to make it consistent throughout. A huge thing is, especially French, that they wanted to focus on Francophonie in France, and that, I mean, not just like Paris and but other countries, and this did that, so it was.
Nobody's rushed to the forefront for Latin yet, huh? It's underlined all of those.
Student Board Representative Joyce?
I just wanted to ask a question on how did this impact our students learning English, maybe as a second language, if any, having any impact?
For the program?
Yes.
So, that's a good question. I mean, I think when you learn another language, it always helps for English. For me, I wasn't a very great English student, and I'm English, right, learning English. And when I learned German, I actually learned more like, it's a verb, it's an adjective, so it really actually helps you learn English, learning another language. And then for our ENL students, sometimes if they're taking, like, we have some ENL students that are taking Spanish, and they're native Spanish speakers, so sometimes it can help them with their biliteracy as well. So it's something that I believe that will enhance their learning.
Would this, if we're changing the program for Spanish and French, would this also change the program for kids learning English? Or is it the same program? If
So
there's
it's
any?
just, this is for world language classes.
Okay.
So it's specifically for our world language classes, not necessarily for our English.
Thank you. And also, I had a question on how do we implement the ASL classes? Would it be, just a personal question, would it be in the high school, middle school, or would it be like the biliteracy program starting at 7th grade and hopefully helping kids learn as they go up? And
That's a great question. We're actually gonna start in our high school and cities as our campus. Cities as our campus, and we'll transition to Schenectady Community College because they have a program there, and then we will also have a program at the high school. And if I can, have a wish, it would be to find another ASL teacher, so we can support multiple buildings. Because I really feel like if you have like you start 7th and then have a kind of funnel, it would be a great opportunity for students. It's really finding, a certified ASL teacher.
thank you so much.
Any other questions from board members? I do have a question, and this is an I wonder. Because I took French and Spanish in school. But I'm going to talk about Spanish, and as you know, I'm fluent in Spanish. But I found, and even friends to this day who have taken French, let's say, I'll use that as an example, in high school and even college, they leave and they can't speak. And then when they go to, okay, maybe France, they can still, when they go to Haiti, let's say, or to other like African countries that speak French, is there are a lot of nuances, even when I speak Spanish, when I was in Spanish class, I'm like, what's that? You know? I mean, because there are, as I think, you know, like the same thing with English, British English and American English, very different. English in Scotland or Ireland, very different. So I'm just wondering again, because with that biliteracy seal, I'm wondering, one, who's assessing the Spanish, right? Are there, and I'm just saying this from my experience, are they truly fluent speakers? Because I had Spanish teachers that were truly not fluent in the Spanish language. And I assume the same for French, but I don't know because I'm speaking, you know. But I'm wondering if the folks who are assessing throughout the years whether our students are fluent in the languages, one, I'm assuming they have a rubric, but even with the fluency in the speaking, right, and the pronunciation, again, I have a wonder because I want to make sure, kind of going back to what Vivian said, that when they get that seal, the seal is true, and that they know the language enough that they can differentiate. Like I can differentiate if I go to Mexico, there's some different languages or words that Mexicans speak or say unlike Dominicans, or if I go to Cuba, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know I'm asking a lot
No,
here,
no,
but
no,
I think
no.
it's important.
That's a great question, and so the great thing about this is it really has a focus on cultural comparison.
Okay.
So it does, it focuses on Mexico and then different countries in South America, Spain, so it talks about that, but it talks about different dialects. We also have teachers that have either done study abroad or that are native speakers from 7th through 12th, that the students would hear different dialects. We have a teacher from Ecuador and Dominican Republic, so in Puerto Rico, so it's different dialects they'll hear throughout their world language experience.
I love that. I think that's huge because I think in the past, at least years ago, it was more, you know, French from France, Spanish from Spain, and it's very, I mean, again, it's the same language. Again, I equate it to English. British English is different than American English. Irish, you know, it's still the same language, but there are nuances. There are different words. So thank you. I appreciate that. Then, just for clarification, because I think you answered this. Do all of our middle schools have this program already, the World Languages program? Not the one that we're adopting, but do they have World Languages classes
Yeah,
currently?
so 7
Oh.
through 12, yes.
Okay.
We had to reduce it, I mean, years ago,
Mhm.
I think 6th grade, but because of the shortage,
Okay.
we weren't able to sustain it.
Okay. And then, do we have an American Sign Language teacher currently? Oh, we do.
We just hired.
Oh, is this gonna be offered for adults? No, I'm serious. I'm serious.
I'm sure you can stop by your class anytime. But maybe she'll do an adult class.
Classes, okay. Yeah, and
Continuing, I know we have continuing ed, so maybe she
yeah, that would be interesting. If so, please let us know. Yeah, please let us know. And then, no, I think that's it for me. Thank you. Thank you. I really love this, by the way, too. I think this is amazing and it's wonderful for our students to be exposed to the different languages. So, any other questions, comments?
Will the ASL would offer to students in the high school or
you can take it.
specific grade?
Yeah, it'll be a nice class. If it fits in your schedule.
Thank you. Yes.
Everybody, good evening.
It's great to see you again.
So while Dr. Chisholm could not be here tonight, I stand before you with a passion for culturally responsive education, a philosophy that seeks to empower students by honoring their identities, their voices, and their histories. The great educational scholars such as Geneva Gray, Gloria Lassig-Billings, Gary Howard, Dr. Goldie Muhammad, and many others affirmed that education remains a civil rights issue of our time. This claim resonates deeply in our district, a district where approximately over 80% of our students identify as students of color, with a teaching and administrative staff that reflect the inverse of our student body. It is imperative that we bridge this gap between through professional development and Our teachers must not only understand the theory behind culturally responsive teaching, but also possess the skills to implement it effectively in their classrooms. The leadership of Schenectady Schools is committed to nurturing a culturally proficient environment where every student feels valued and empowered. Our vision is clear: to foster excellence in teaching and learning, equity, engagement, and efficiency. To achieve this, we must teach our children about their unique cultural backgrounds, instilling in them a sense of pride and understanding of the place in the world. In pursuit of these goals, we have undertaken a request for proposal, or RFP process, selecting 1 out of 14 candidates with a rigorous grading sheet of criteria. The committee selected Umaja Education Cultural Service, UECS, to lead the upcoming Summer Institute from August 13th to 15th from 8 to 3. I hope you can join if you're free. We currently have over 100 participants, teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals enrolled. This institute will focus on the culturally relevant classroom, equipping our educators with the knowledge and strategies necessary to develop culturally relevant lessons. UECS will not only provide professional development, but will also train a core of our teachers, admin, and paras to ensure that culturally responsive practices become ingrained in our district's culture over time. The objectives of this PD sessions are clear: enhancing educators' cultural proficiency, explore the research on culturally responsive teaching, and equip participants with practical skills to create and evaluate culturally relevant lessons. These sessions will empower our teachers to implement a curriculum that affirms our students' identities, fosters their academic achievement, and promotes a commitment to social justice. As we move forward, we are excited to provide our teachers with this transformative opportunity. By embracing culturally responsive education, we can ensure that every child in Schenectady sees themselves reflected in their education and feels empowered to achieve greatness. I want to thank Dr. Chisholm for her commitment and support of our cultural and linguistic initiatives for students and teachers, Kamala Parente for her commitment and support for culturally responsive education, and I thank you for your attention and support as we continue to strive for excellence, equity, and engagement in our district.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Board member Jamaica?
What was the date again of the PD? I was like, wait, what?
August 13th to the 15th from 8 to 3.
Can we slow?
Yeah.
So if I can only come one day?
Fine.
Okay. All right, that's a busy week. I'm just saying. Okay.
Will it be at Liberty?
It is, the 14th.
Will it be at Liberty?
It's going to be at the high school.
Oh, at the high school.
Okay. And it's all day, what time to start?
8 to 3, and that's
8 a.m.?
8 a.m.
All right. I'm just
It's
really
really
early.
early.
Catch me at nighttime.
Any other questions from board members?
I do.
Great.
I have a question. Would it be for all teachers or just certain teachers and
So that's a great question. We actually had the administrators select certain teachers to participate. We wanted people that were aware of culturally responsive education, had a foundation, and this would enhance because we really need people that are understanding and want to make that change, and then can kind of spread it out to the district. That's a great question.
And board member Vivian?
I have two questions. So with culturally responsive education, I'm assuming it's regardless of the subject that's being taught.
Yeah.
First question is, how does that enhance or add to the overall rigor of the curriculum that's being taught?
Great question. So I'm sure you can see that there's like a theme throughout a lot of our curriculum when it comes to ready, wisdom, unbound ed. So a lot of our McGraw-Hill, a lot of our curriculum, we've kind of woven through. It's not just one thing, but one thing special about this professional development is that as a teacher, you have to really know yourself, right? Number one. you have to know the community that you're teaching, and you have to be able to really empower the students. So it's not just like, oh, we're just gonna buy books so they can see themselves, right? We want our students, like, what is in the books? Are the students seeing the positive of their community? Are the students really learning, are they really engaged in the content? So it's not just one thing, and that's what I love about this. It's really, a teacher can bring a lesson and learn the strategies and work with the team there to really come up with a lesson. And, you know, what are the stereotypes in this lesson? Or what are the, how can I elevate our students even more? Kind of along those lines. If I answered your question.
Yes. Second question, do we happen to have any data that shows how culturally responsive curriculum has improved a student's overall GPA and the overall graduation rate?
I'm sure I can find it for you. But yes, there's a lot of scholarly articles that support that if a student has a good foundation and good identity and feels that they have a voice and feel empowered, that it does impact how they feel about the school, how they feel about themselves, but it's also overall impact their grades.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, right, we want to see that for them.
No, absolutely, absolutely, that's huge. Having a better sense of self-worth is critically important for all of our students. Last question, does this allow for an emphasis on the importance of having a critical thinking skills and allowing for the ability to view whatever through different or multiple lenses?
Yes. So one of the, and also I just went to the professional development for Unbound Ed that Rebecca Wilson had under her department, and yes, and one of the great things is that it does have teachers really like tease through a lesson and think of every scenario, everything that they could possibly, any type of bias, their own personal bias, right, and how they can eliminate that and really look at the curriculum, look at the lesson plan and say, wow, okay, these are some stereotypes and I don't like how this is said, and really just, you know, focus on it and look at it from multiple lenses.
Yes, I'm just wondering where the line is drawn as opposed to, is something really a bias or is it, I just feel differently about this topic? So where does that line drawn?
Right, and that's why this PD is very important because the teachers have to do that self-work and they have to look at their own identity first because you naturally, right, you naturally bring in biases. So you have to do that own work so you're coming to this lesson in a neutral space and doing what's best for our students so they can find their own voice where you're not, you know, really, you're not giving your opinion. And you're
Thank you.
looking from their space.
Definitely important. Thank you.
Board Member Jamaica?
As you were talking, it reminded me of the Leadership in Education conference that we were at. Engagement was probably the one through line for the entire conference. Whether it was the panel discussion with the students or we were talking about AI, I was just flipping through my notes. Every single piece of it looked at the ability to engage a student increases student success. You can have a wonderful, rigorous lesson that is high quality, but if you're not able to reach that student with how you're engaging with them, if you've not done the work, like, here's the student body in front of me, what are the different ways for me to engage every single one in the classroom? Your rigor's not going to matter because there's going to be a body of evidence that said, I didn't show up today. We talked about it with absenteeism, we talked about it with AI, we talked about it with cell phones, there's grading practices, every single piece. So I appreciate that, again, we're looking at professional development that's not narrow in scope, but allows for us to reach a large group of our student body in a way that not only allows our teachers to continue to learn. If we are an institution of education, we should all be constant learners. But also creates a space for every child to learn in the global society that we live in. Because while we sit here and have conversations often about, oh, you know, we have world languages and there's a student that spoke Arabic and now is bilingual in English, it is a very small piece of the larger puzzle of the different cultures and ethnicities inside not just this district, but the world our children are moving out to. So if our teachers are able to step up in this way, so thank you all for making sure they can, it then better prepares our students to not have those biases, to have a critical lens, and to be engaged in the rigorous work that we're presenting to them. So I'm looking forward to being there at least for one day. If anything changes on my other calendar, then yes, it'll be all days. But this is great, so thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Student Board Representative Joyce?
Thank you. I wanted to ask, you said specific teachers were chosen to hopefully spread it out. Is it something we expect teachers to go back and apply it to their teaching, hopefully, or is it something that we're not really prepared to see it being applied, or is it like prepared to
Yeah,
have
so
it applied?
teachers will actually be doing lesson plans there, and bring it, that's the goal for them to bring it back to the classroom. Where it's engaging, you know, there's different, you can gamify a lesson, you can make it fun, but also rigorous, and also where there's student voice and students feel empowered. So yes, teachers are gonna, you know, they're select, because we can't have every, unfortunately, it'd be great if we can bring every teacher, right? But different, all the schools have a representative, and then over time, it's gonna be like a trainer model.
Thank you. You just answered my second question. I was just wondering how spread out, how was the thought process on how spread out it would be? Like, was there teachers in the high school that was picked out, teachers in the middle school, elementary schools, and throughout the different schools?
Absolutely.
And also, I had a different question on how was the program kind of like pamphlet chosen? How was the different lesson plans and other PD that they were going to be taught chose? And was it picked by different teachers with a little more experience on it? Was it a different program that's already been implemented in different schools? How was it chosen? And
So the administrator in that building is the one that chose the teachers. So a lot of times there were teachers that are usually some experience and teacher leaders, coaches that could really bring it back to the building and spread it kind of throughout the school.
sorry, it was kind of a question I was trying to frame. I wasn't putting it in good words. How is like the lesson plans that they were going to be chosen? How was it?
You mean
What
this
is the program?
program? Like how is this program chosen?
Yes.
How
How's the program
how is the
itself being
Umoja
chosen?
education
Oh,
program
okay,
chosen?
okay, sorry, I didn't understand. So we had, it's an RFP process, so that is, the district sends it out, and then different companies can sign up for it based on the criteria. So, you know, one of the criteria is we're a nationally known organization that is research-based, that will focus on culturally relevant classrooms. Ideal the organization is directly involved in ongoing research, because we want to make sure it's research-based, right? We're not, other things were outcomes from professional development will match the needs of the target audience. Participants will be able to immediately implement learning. So we wanted you know, teachers to be able to leave this professional development, like you said, and go into a classroom and be able to teach culturally relevant, a culturally relevant lesson. So things that you were saying were on the criteria, and then we had a committee to read it. Great question.
Thank you so much. I promise this is the last
No,
one.
it's okay.
But when it comes up, I will ask you.
And I just just have one question. In terms of, because I know that there are a number of teachers that are going to go to the training, you mentioned it's kind of like a trainer eventually. But I'm wondering, have we, because buy-in also is a big thing, right? So I'm wondering if we have had any conversations with, specifically, you mentioning the high school, with other teachers in terms of buy-in, or is the thought that once teachers go through this training and they see, hey, this is good, and then they try it in the classroom, it's effective, that alone might help with the buy-in? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, absolutely. So the teachers that were chosen,
Mhm.
obviously there was a conversation with the administrator. They had to fill out a form, so we would know kind of the why. Because we wanted, spending this amount, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to convince anybody that this was a good idea. Like they're like on board. So from there, then when they go back and they're actually doing it in the classroom in September, that it would spread the positivity about the PE.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep.
It came back.
Joyce, all right.
Thank you. Is there any chance of having the same PD or something similar during the school year, or maybe next summer, or maybe like within, let's say, implementing it into the district?
Absolutely, I think it could be a possibility. It's something that we can work, we do after the fact, ask teachers if it was meaningful to them, and that, to get an idea to see if we should continue the contract in the future. That's a great question.
Joyce, you just had me think about something. In light of everything that's going on in our country and how controversial things are going to be, especially with the election in November, I'm wondering too with this training, and if not, I'm just wondering if the training also engages educators in having, because some of like social studies, some of the things that are going to be encountered in social studies are going to be extremely controversial, especially if they're looking at the newspaper and teachers are engaging in a conversation. I'm wondering with this training, because I know culturally responsive teaching is not only about critical thinking, it's problem solving and really higher order thinking. I'm wondering if the training, and maybe you don't know, but if the training engages in like in real life application in a classroom, if that makes sense. Like the controversial things that are happening and preparing teachers like, culturally responsive teaching, awesome, these are the skills that will help our students, but then also the reality is that this is truly going to come into your classroom with everything that's happening in our country and what that conversation may look like and what questions, not so much leading questions, more like what do you see when when you're looking at the debate. What did you hear? What did you see? So I know I'm asking kind of a lot there, but I'm just wondering if if the training kind of deals with that kind of.
I mean, it does deal with identity, it does deal with conversations, or those courageous conversations. That's something that I will bring to them, because we do have to meet with them before the training. That's something I could definitely bring to them. As educators, we have to teach both sides, and have the kids actually have their own voice and empower them. So that's something I could definitely bring to them.
Thank you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Okay, we will now vote on the two resolutions for consideration, and these two resolutions are not in the consent agenda item. So I'll accept a motion to approve the World Language Curriculum Resolution. May I have a motion? Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. Second?
Second.
Okay, second, Board Member Kathy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion to accept the World Language Curriculum Resolution carries. Yes. Okay, so now I'll accept a motion to approve the Umoja Education Services Resolution. May I have a motion? Okay. Thank you, VP. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. Any discussion, additions, correction? We're good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept the Umoja Education Services Resolution carries.
Thank you.
So we will now transition to the consent agenda items. The next order of business are the consent agenda items. The consent agenda items includes items to be approved by consent and were previously sent to the board for review. However, single items can be considered separately and taken off the consent agenda item by a single member if they wish to do so. Does anyone want any? Yes, Kathy?
Policy 7133, universal pre-K.
7133, yep, universal pre-K, thank you. Okay, so at the request of board member Kathy, we are removing item 7133, universal pre-K policy, from the consent agenda items, and we will vote on that separately after the consent agenda. So resolutions 9 through 11E, as itemized on the consent agenda, are presented for approval. I'll accept a motion to approve these items. May I have a motion? Thank you, board member Kathy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, VP. Any discussion?
Thank you for the donations.
Yes, always,
Yes.
always. And just so the board knows, Martha and Michelle always send a thank you letter to all the folks that donate. And it was a bequest, I believe, and I mean, it was amazing. It was $10,000, so absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for reminding us, Jamaica, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept resolutions 9 through 11E carries. So now we're going to return back to policy 7133. Board member Kathy, questions?
I just wanted to point out that this also had not been an existing policy, and we had not seen it in the first read. But this is formalizing, if I'm correct, based on conversation I had with Joe DiCaprio, the pre-K selection process, not selection process, but assignment for students to schools. This is formalizing what we have been doing. I mean, as I said in my note to him, the fact is that it seemed familiar, but I couldn't find it as an existing process, an existing policy. So while it's new, it isn't new. The policy is new, but the work has been done in this similar fashion via the lottery. I didn't realize until I asked the question that there were so many rules around a lottery. I mean, a lottery seemed like a lottery to me, not New York State.
It's new in policy, but the
Yes.
practice has been historical. And this policy also addresses a slight shift we made, and kudos to our registration team, Jess Valente, to try, given the governance that is extremely tight regulating the lottery and everything around it, we were able to make a small change to at least attempt to accommodate families of multiples, twins, triplets, that pair those kids together, or at least gives the option for families to have them paired, to move through the lottery in unison, so that if space is available, they could potentially be placed in the same building. It's tough to really negotiate, but yeah, Kathy, it's a new policy, but the practice has been pretty regular over the years.
And we make determination, I guess this is one question I hadn't asked, we make determination on who is assigned to the school district or accommodated within the school district versus the other outside agencies. How do we do that?
But
Or is it by request of
well,
the?
yeah, we give families preference, and
Yeah,
we rank,
okay.
and we always look internal, in our own buildings with their space, and there's great partnerships with early childhood organizations in the city. There are several.
They're by the
Yeah, we work collaboratively with them.
CBOs.
CBOs, there they are. And what do you say?
No, I was waiting. Community-based organizations.
Okay, I just thought that it was important to point this out with regard to that pre-K policies, but I'm ready to vote, but
Just one quick question, and I was looking, and it's like, it included a definition for term for siblings as.
what, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It included a definition for a term for siblings. So what if, as children with shared guardianship and or custody who reside at a permanent residence with the same physical address, if we were to have a situation where maybe it was twins with maybe different physical address, would it still be possible to have them in the same put together in the lottery?
Yeah, we would pair them based off the twins.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question.
But that's not the way it's written in our policy. Like, in the policy, the permanent address is the piece. So, and what I think it's trying to address is like, there could be siblings that live in different households. And so maybe would be in different neighborhoods or whatever. Those individuals, though related, would not have the option to opt into the same building based on this policy. Even if they were twins, that's the way I read the policy.
It would.
I mean, we make exceptions for people all the time, like, folks are able to reach out to the school district and say, hey, I'm looking for an exception, and those things happen, but based on the way the policy is written, it does specify siblings, meaning in the same physical household.
Yes, remember, it's an umbrella. We keep it wide, right? So we know there'll be situations that the policy doesn't specifically address. That's where the conversation comes in. This guides it, and we certainly can be flexible based off situations, and then obviously space, preference, and all the pieces that define the policy in practice.
But I'm wondering, well, where it says children, this is under special consideration, the third sentence, unless I'm reading it incorrectly, where it says children with linked applications, so maybe they live in different houses, but they have one application. So let's say I have a child that lives with me, but my ex-husband or boyfriend has one of them there, but we completed one application. So it sounds like,
There's room for negotiation.
yes.
Sure,
Yes.
and there might be, so typically, that's a phone call from registration to engage and make sure what we have is accurate based off the form and application.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm gonna check that.
Great question, Joe. Absolutely.
Mhm. Any other questions, comments? So I'll accept a motion to approve consent agenda 8, policy 7133. May I have a motion? Thank you, board member Kathy, second. Second. Thank you, board member Alexandra. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept resolution 8, policy 7133 carries. We will now transition to the professional learning plan and goals. Today, we have the opportunity to delve into an integral aspect of our school district's commitment to continuous improvement and professional growth. At the forefront of this effort is someone who plays a pivotal role in shaping our educators' development and growth. Please join me in welcoming Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Professional Learning, who brings a wealth of experience. Shannon and her team's dedication to supporting our students and staff ensures that we not only meet, but work to exceed our educational goals. Today, Assistant Superintendent of HR and PL, Professional Learning, Shannon will guide us through the professional learning plans and goals that are essential to our ongoing success. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Board of Education, Deputy Superintendent Joey Caprio and colleagues. I'm going to also have with me Carmela Parente, who's instrumental in this work with me. She's our Director of Teaching and Learning. I want to go over a few things. I have sent the board two separate plans. One is the instructional professional learning plan, and one is for non-instructional employees. Carmela and I work together pretty tirelessly on the instructional piece of this. So I want to take a look first at our first slide. I'm going to have Carmela be my clicker assistant. So on our first slide, it's about our pillars and about our district vision. So professional learning is critical to our vision as Schenectady City School District, where we strive to continuously improve our school district by dedicating excellence in teaching and learning, equity, engagement, and efficiency. It's also integral to each of our pillars for student and graduate success, passionate people, and even our partnerships with families and communities. We must have critical professional learning plan that is dedicated to this work. What's the purpose of professional learning? I think we need to start there. So professional learning is one of the key levers for improving student success. It's proven. Teachers and leaders must continuously be provided with learning opportunities to improve the quality of teaching and leading in our schools. It's also essential that all of our employees receive professional development to remain current in their craft and to foster growth. Now, the reason I have two separate plans here is because the instructional piece is guided by section 100.2D of the Commissioner's regulations. The commissioner's regulations, and what everyone needs to understand, is there's pages of requirements of what our professional learning plan must include. It tells you how long you have to develop the plan, who the committee members must be, what must be in the professional learning plan, and one thing our district hasn't been in compliance with is the New York State Education Department requires us to submit assurances to the state that our plan meets the goals and all the requirements and the regulations. So this year is dedicated to ensuring that our professional learning plan meets the requirements of the regulations, which it hasn't been in the past, and so that really, it took us almost the full year to get us into compliance with the regulations, including we had to adopt professional learning committee members that met the requirements of the regulations, and make sure that we adopt it in conformance with every requirement, which, like I said, is laborious. It's pages and pages of requirements. So the regulation requires our community members to comprise of the following individuals: the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. The superintendent has designated myself to serve as his designee in this regard. The majority of the members of the committee must be teachers. We must have school administrators on the committee. We have to have one or more curriculum specialists, and there must be at least one representative of a higher education institution, who is Patricia Rand from Clarkson University. The board has voted to adopt the members of our professional learning committee at its December and January meetings. On the next page, we list our professional learning plan committee members, and I'm so proud to say they were amazing. I have to say, we held multiple meetings over the plan. We poured through the regulatory requirements to make sure our plan actually met the regulatory requirements. We talked about what we needed. We looked at additional plans. We looked at Albany, Troy, Shenandoah's plan. We looked at all of our local school districts in size and composition to see what they were doing that we might want to add to our own plan. We talked about it at length. So the meetings were very instrumental in leading to where we are now, and I just want to give a huge, big thank you to all of our committee members. So on the next page, this is what the regulation requires. It says, your professional learning plan must include a bunch of things. One is, we must describe how we're giving each of our teachers 100 hours of CTLE opportunities every 5 years. That's 20 hours a year. And 50% of those must be in language acquisition for our ELL teachers, and all other teachers, it must be 15% must be in language acquisition. So, well, for Schenectady City School District, we will provide teachers, and I can assure you that we provide teachers way more than 100 hours every 5 years, and you can get as much professional learning in Schenectady as you would like. One of the other things is, it also says that we have to tell us what our expectation is with respect to a teacher or leader's participation in CTLE. We expect them to be at every superintendent conference day. We expect them to, which is 4 days dedicated to the delivery of professional development. We expect all of our new teachers to go to new teacher seminars, new orientation. We have mentoring opportunities, induction opportunities, coaching opportunities. All of those are expectations for our teachers. In addition, we have an online Schenectady Learns platform, which provides a myriad of opportunities for our teachers and administrators. And our expectation is you seek out any professional learning opportunity you might need to be successful in our district. The regulation also requires that our professional learning plan be aligned to the teaching standards, the leadership standards, and the learning standards. That we do a review of our assessments and our assessment results and determine where our professional development needs to be targeted for the next year. That we must evaluate our students' needs and the learning theory, and look at current research on professional learning opportunities and where our plan needs to be adjusted. It also requires that we look at linguistic opportunities, cultural diversity, and special needs, and culturally appropriate and responsive practices when developing our plan. It also asks that we articulate our professional learning across grade levels to ensure that there's a vertical and horizontal alignment with our curriculum. Opportunities that the school district or BOCES must provide to its educators to support their professional growth. Again, coaching, induction, professional learning committee activities. It requires us to do a needs analysis with quantitative and qualitative information regarding teacher and leader practice and student outcomes, goals, objectives and strategies, activities, and even how we're going to evaluate our own professional learning plan. It requires that we provide training on our mandatory training requirements, which is 8 hours of additional training on the school violence, child abuse and neglect, the needs of autistic children, the Dignity for All Students Act. It also requires us to provide a mentoring program, which we're proud to say we have a robust mentoring program for our new teachers. So in developing our current plan, meetings were held with the Professional Learning Committee on many dates, and I've outlined the dates on the next slide. The first few dates were before we had our formally executed professional learning committee. Those were dates where we had looked at our prior plan internally with the executive leadership team, administrators, and teachers across the district, but we didn't have a formalized professional mentoring committee or professional learning committee. Once we realized that we were out of compliance with state ed regs and that we needed to go back and look at to make sure that our plan complied, we then convened a committee, and we all adopted the members of that committee in December and January of this year to make sure that we were in conformance. I then submitted a plan for the state ed approval of our plan after we reviewed this with our professional learning committee. We provided all the assurances that the New York State Education Department required, and we also became a formalized CTLE sponsor for our professional learning events for our teachers and administrators. So this was a laborious process, and Carmela and Joe were instrumental in helping get that approved by the state. So now we have a state-approved professional learning plan, so that's exciting. So our goals for professional learning. Our goals are that it be focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion to become an organization dedicated to equitable outcomes for all. We want to prioritize our social, emotional learning, restorative practices, and positive behavior intervention services in order to engage our best practice strategies that are inclusive, accepting, and responsive to the needs of our students and employees alike. We also want to ensure that we have language and content lesson planning and instruction to support our language acquisition. English as a new language and content area teachers must be able to collaborate purposefully and consistently to promote academic achievement in all content areas to leverage students' home language, cultural assets, and prior knowledge. We want to deepen the knowledge and understanding of the next generation learning standards and research-based instructional practices for all of our content areas, prioritizing literacy development. We want to prioritize Tier 1 instructional best practices, intervention, and monitoring of student academic, attendance, behavior, and social learning using district data information systems. We prioritize our best practices for equitable grading and reporting policies, and we want to expand our professional learning opportunities to increase staff knowledge and expertise using research-based strategies focused specifically on students with disabilities. We also want to provide training to ensure the successful implementation of our district strategic plan, our DSIP, our SFs, and other district initiatives and programs through data-informed decision-making processes. So those are the goals of our professional learning plan. So how do we do this? We have 4 superintendent conference days where all the work is dedicated toward these goals. We have an online learning platform, Schenectady Learns. If you've ever had a chance to go on our website, you'll see an array of opportunities. We have a lot of our own internal folks providing professional development opportunities, both online or in person. They even after hours, people can welcome or join in one of our online learning platform or even events. We have faculty meetings that are dedicated toward professional development, department meetings where they're dedicated toward professional development. We have instructional coaches, as you know, in ELA and math in almost all of our schools. We have a robust mentoring program for our new teachers. We have professional learning committees embedded in most of our schools where teams of teachers can work together on the professional learning needs. We have new orientation and new teacher seminars for our brand new teachers, which are providing them with robust professional learning opportunities right from the start. We want them to get integrated from Schenectady from the day that they are welcomed into the district, and to make sure that they understand our students and what the expectations are on their first day. We also have a Patriot Leadership Academy, which we have for both teachers and administrators, which provides professional learning opportunities, or even just a time for them to meet people and get to better understand our school district or provide the opportunities or advancement opportunities in our own district. So these are some of the things that we worked with our professional learning team on. We also wanted them to really understand that there are 7 characteristics to great professional development. It must be relevant to their context. It must help the teacher or administrator plan and improve instruction or leading. It must be teacher-driven or administrative-driven if it's administrator training. It needs to include hands-on strategies applicable to the classroom or their building. It needs to be highly interactive or engaging, as we just discussed in our prior conversation. It must be sustained over time. It has to be continuous. You can't just give it once. You've got to keep giving it. If it's something important enough that you're doing it once, you need to continue to provide that professional learning. You need to recognize that the people that you're giving this learning to are professionals, and they have valuable insights too. It might help the conversation. So that's what we do for teachers. So that's part of our instructional plan for, is with respect to teachers, but we also have professional learning for our administrators. And how do we do that for our administrators? We have 5. We have this year for the first time, I must say, and we will see this even with our non-instructional employees. This is something I'm very, very proud of. In this last 6 months, we've worked to come up with a full-day training program for every single employee group. It's the first time this has ever happened. Every employee group will have time with human resources, the business office. They will have expectations set for them and somebody from their own group to set the expectations. They will have training on online platforms that are pertinent to what their role is in the district. They will have access to TCIS training for paraprofessionals, a myriad of different things depending on your employee group. But for administrators, we have our new administrator orientation. It is August 23rd this year. We have 5 professional learning days from June to August that are focused on our DSEP, our SS, expectations, goals, collaborative opportunities among administrators to discuss best practices in certain school districts. We have, this year we're focusing on school culture and climate. We've had speakers come and talk to our administrators about turning around our school climate and culture in our district and to our district leaders. These are things that anything that we believe is important, we are trying to bring in input and infuse into these training programs. We have a mentoring program for our administrators. We have 20 hours of mentoring that's provided for all of our probationary administrators. That's impressive. Some districts do not have this option, so we're super proud of our mentoring program as well. We also have monthly principal and AP and director meetings that are dedicated to professional learning. And also our administrators can seek outside conferences if approved by the superintendent that are related to their area. So that's our instructional plan. So you'll see one of the plans, as I said, is our instructional plan, and then for the first time ever, we now have a non-instructional plan. And I'm gonna say, what you have in front of you is a draft, and it is our first year. It's our first year that we ever had an instructional plan that is directly related to the regulations. Next year, we're gonna tweak that plan, make adjustments as necessary, make it the best it can possibly be. But this year on our instructional plan, I'm gonna be honest, we were focused on meeting the regulatory requirements, making sure it had everything we wanted in it. And next year, we'll make it even more robust with making it more engaging and, having it be more tailored to what our district needs. But this year, we were really focused on making sure we hit those regulatory requirements. And the second plan is our non-instructional plan. Again, this is the beginning. As this next slide says, professional learning can be the lever of change if we plan for it. We know we need change. We need to help our non-instructional employees. I think the board knows, and it's not a secret in the community either, that some of our employee groups, they were literally placed into a building, into a position with no training or guidance as to what the expectations would be for that role on day one. We are hoping that this is a game changer for our district and for our employees, and I do believe that when someone understands what's expected of them on day one, this will make them have a better culture, make them want to stay in our district, make them understand our students better, make an overall better engagement for both the employee and our students. So what we are planning for this year is, like I said, new orientation programs for every single employee group. And I have to have a big shout out to all of our ELT members who have been helping me and assisting me with this, because each of them is responsible for their area and helping me make this go for this year. So I'm so proud and thankful for all the help I've gotten. We also have, for all of our employee groups, we have 4 superintendent conference games aimed at providing professional learning opportunities tailored for each employee group. So during those superintendent conference days, there's dedicated work for each of our groups it's guided by the ELT member responsible for that group. Then we have new onboarding checklists, so this is a new thing as well. Our school building principals at each school has actually named a person that's responsible for welcoming and onboarding new employees. They've just identified someone in their building who will be responsible for that. As part of that, on day one, there's a checklist that they'll need to complete. It'll be like, they're gonna walk them through the building, give them a tour, show them the people that they need to know, kind of hook them up with people that might be similar to them, or they think they might have similar interests or similar grade levels. There's gonna be, where's the supply closet, literally going through the very basics and trying to help that employee make sure that they have their computers working, make sure that they have access to what they need, and where they know where the restrooms are, really welcoming that employee on day one. The idea is to have the best experience on day one, so you want to stay for day 2 and day 3 and thereafter. We're also going to be having an exit checklist so that on the last, on your last day of work, that is also something where you're going to feel like it was organized, a thoughtful, exit from the district. So from day 1 to your last day, it should be a good experience. That's our goal. So we're also established this year mentoring for our secretaries and our paraprofessionals. So they have monthly meetings with their mentors, any new secretaries or paraprofessionals where they've been hooked up and assigned a mentor who's an experienced person in the district. So that's been exciting. We've got a lot of great feedback on that. We have approved outside conferences for secretaries, nurses, CODA, MC, and MMA staff as well, where they can ask us if they want to learn something in an additional area. We can send them to a conference or, subject to the approval of their administrator. There's also, we have numerous online opportunities through Vector Solutions and the Employee Assistance Group that we've never tapped into. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of professional development opportunities. Jeff Russo is looking at them to see what would be available for our safety staff, because we have a bunch that are actually, he thinks they would benefit from, and we have Andrea Freeman is looking for paraprofessionals, because they have a number of online professional opportunities that might be great for those folks as well. So we're going to be taking that, figuring out what we think is applicable, and then assigning them to staff as we feel that they might benefit from them. As part of this, my office has also created a web page that will be dedicated to professional learning opportunities for all staff. So you will be able to access it right from the Human Resources webpage. It'll go to professional development. On there, it'll have each employee group with dedicated opportunities for each employee group. It's already underway, and hopefully we'll have it up before the start of the school year. And as I said, these are draft plans. We are just in the beginning phases. This is new work that we're diving into. Next year, I expect it to be even more robust than it was. Currently, this is a 5-year plan for our instructional learning plan, but it will be reviewed annually. And that's the goal, and that was the recommendation that we received from our professional learning committee. With respect to the non-instructional side, this will be an annual plan that we'll be looking at and adding to every year. Another thing I just want to add and I want to thank Terry Galuli, who's our Chief Financial Officer. He has blessed me with some money to provide. I know one of the things that another area that we were really lacking in as a district, as there was no planning time for our special ed teachers to meet with our paraprofessionals to talk about our students. What are those students' IEPs? To tell them about the needs of our students and to figure out what the expectations were for the classroom for the following year and how they could best meet the needs of those students. And this is an area where we've seen a lot of questions or problems. So this is something that we've dedicated money over the summer. So our special ed teachers can all come in this summer, every single teacher in the district, with their paraprofessional team to talk about the needs of the students and how to move our special education classrooms forward for the next school year. So this is a big deal, and I just want to thank Terry for allowing us to do that. So as I said, these are draft plans. I'm willing to hear the board's feedback, and we will come back on August 14th for adoption of the plans. Are there any questions?
Questions, board members? Start with Jamaica, board member Jamaica.
Funny you would mention Terry. I was also at the law conference, and one of the notes I wrote during that meeting is Terry is great. But, we can tell him later. Thank you for making us better employers, because that's something we really need to recognize. We are employers, and we have struggled with employee retention. I have had my own struggles with staff coming in. Folks know I have a little with an IEP. He needs a one-to-one. Not only are we setting up the employees for success, we are ensuring that the littles in the classroom are going to have what they need, whether they have an IEP or not. So just what I wrote was employee retention set up for success. So thank you so much. The question is, when you mentioned last day of work, are we pushing harder for the evaluations? It's a two-part question. Are we pushing harder for please give us your honest opinion, you're leaving, for someone that's leaving, like, hey, you're leaving anyways, just tell us what we did good, what we did bad, what you hated, all those things. But what about when someone transfers within district? I know that our safety staff transfer sometimes. Do they have an opportunity to give feedback in that moment? Especially if they are like, hey, I would like to, go to such and such place. Are we looking to collect that data about why someone does or does not want to be in a specific building?
So that's a great question. So for our exit surveys, the minute I find out that they're leaving, I have my staff reach out to them and say, would you like to meet with Shannon to talk about like why you're leaving, and who can do, are the greats, the things we can do better as a district. And it's amazing how many people do take us up on that, but then there are some that don't. And we have an online survey, and actually we're actually amending our online survey that's going out to use Thought Exchange to get better results. So that's something that we'll be instituting as well in September, because it basically gives you a snapshot and it really synthesizes the data in a way that's meaningful. So that's something that we'll be instituting even better in September. But as for people who transfer, that's something that if they're transferring, because usually someone comes and asks me, they're like, can I transfer to a different building? And when they're asking me that, they'll explain to me why they want to transfer. And so I kind of have an idea of the ones that I meet with. But and I think Jeff is the same way. Like if it's a safety staff member, they'll usually go to Jeff or I and say, I would rather be at Mount Pleasant or wherever they want to go, and we have a conversation about it. But there might be folks that don't, and so maybe I could do that is if I'm finding that they're transferring, send them a survey or ask them, and that's a great point, especially like our paraprofessionals and things like that.
Yeah.
So that is something I will do moving forward.
That's it for now.
Any other board members? Board member Vivian?
This is a loaded question. I know I'm good for those. And it is not an easy question to ask, but I do feel like it's an important one to ask. So when we are considering the committee members, a couple things. I wanted to know, what are we considering when appointing faculty members to the committee? The reason I ask this is because if professional learning is key in improving student success, number one, are we even looking at the current student success rate in their classroom already? In the high school, are we looking at how many students are potentially dropping their class in the first quarter? Are we looking at the overall GPA? Are we speaking to their students? Do you even like this teacher? Do you feel like they're engaging? Are we reaching out to parents or guardians? Have you heard from this teacher once in the whole school year? And I feel like that's important, because if we are emphasizing engagement, are we making sure that the committee members are already practicing engagement? Second part to that, are we also considering the relationship that committee members have with other faculty or admin in the building? Because what I'm concerned with is if we have faculty attending professional development sessions and they may have had a consistently poor experience with an administrator or with a fellow faculty member, and they go to these professional development meetings, they might be checked out or completely disengaged because the person that they feel may not be engaging with them in an appropriate manner or a productive manner. They're now a part of telling them how to do their job. So I feel like these are certain things that if we're not already considering it, can we potentially start considering it in the future?
So on the first question, I'm going to let Carmela talk a little bit about how the professional committee members were selected. I mean, I see the input from teaching and learning and from the teachers union. I look at my own records, like, to know, like, I do look for the conflict issue when I'm looking at them, the ones that I know of. Some I might not be aware of, but the ones I'm aware of, I would definitely note that if I saw that as part of something that could be an issue. But I will let Carmela talk a little bit about how they're selected.
One of the things that we do need to make sure that we do is have the committee represent mostly teachers. So that's one of the biggest things that we do. And it's not a highly selective process, meaning we don't discourage people that want to join, But because it's not necessarily, this is more of a steering committee, there are not people who are like running to our doors saying, I want to be on this, committee. It's a lot of work, especially since this part of the committee is really making sure it's some dry work, right? It's looking through all of the regulations and then making sure our plan meets all of those. And then it gets, I think, I have a bias, but then I think it gets a little bit more exciting when we're thinking through, like, we argue about the goals, right? We at one point probably had 20 goals. And I was like, when you have 20 goals, we're not, and then you think about all the other goals we have in the district, right? We have our vision, mission goals, and then we also have our DCEP goals, and we have our strategic plan. So we got it down to probably 16 last year, and then I pushed for 8. So at that point, then it becomes a little bit more exciting. But typically people that want to kind of join this committee are people who really see the value. Sometimes it's people who have gone to sessions or don't think that we provided things that they want us to provide, like that, those commitments around what is quality professional development. If people don't feel like it applies to what they do, and that it's relevant and that it's useful, then sometimes that's how somebody becomes asked to be a member. We don't really try to shy away from it. And I tend to like people who can provide the other side.